She mistook a CEO for the music teacher tuning the piano, but that mistake changed everything. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. Have you ever had one of those moments where everything seems to fall into place, but in a way you never expected? Well, that's exactly what happened to Claire. It was an ordinary Tuesday afternoon when Claire stepped into the luxurious Grand Piano Hall, a place she'd never expected to visit, let alone be a part of. She had received a last-minute invite from her best friend, Jenny, to attend a classical concert. Claire wasn't particularly into highbrow events like these, but Jenny insisted, practically begging her to come along. Claire, always the good sport, agreed, albeit reluctantly. As she entered the hall, the soft murmur of conversations and the clink of glasses from the bar filled the air. The room was bathed in warm golden light, and the whole place exuded elegance and refinement. Claire, in her modest dress, felt completely out of place. She took a deep breath, adjusting the strap of her purse, and scanned the room for Jenny. But before she could find her, her eyes fell on a man sitting alone at a grand piano on stage. His back was to her, and he was quietly tuning the instrument, the soft sound of piano keys filling the air. Claire, unsure of where to sit, made a snap decision. She walked over to the man, assuming he was the music teacher. She couldn't help herself. She had always been fascinated by the way musicians worked with their instruments, and this seemed like the perfect opportunity to ask him about his craft. "Excuse me," she said, standing at the edge of the piano. "Are you the music teacher here?" The man turned his head slightly, and Claire saw him for the first time. He was stunning, with sharp features, dark hair neatly styled, and a confident air about him. He looked like someone who belonged in a movie. He blinked, clearly caught off guard, and gave a small, polite smile. "I'm not the music teacher, but I do work here," he replied, his voice smooth and warm. "I'm Liam Parker." Claire smiled nervously, realizing her mistake, but trying to play it off. "Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were," she trailed off, feeling a bit embarrassed but still determined to make the best of the situation. "No problem at all," Liam said, his smile widening. "Blind dates are awkward enough, I suppose. I'm used to strange introductions." Claire laughed, her nerves easing a little. "Well, I guess I should introduce myself properly. I'm Claire. I'm just here because my friend dragged me along." Liam chuckled, looking down at the piano keys. "Sometimes we find ourselves in places we never expected, don't we?" Claire nodded, feeling a strange connection to him. The way he spoke, so calm and thoughtful, made her feel at ease, even though she didn't belong in this fancy environment. As she sat down beside him, the two of them continued to chat about music, life, and everything in between. Little did Claire know, this simple, accidental meeting was about to change everything in ways she could never have imagined. The next few days passed in a blur. Claire couldn't help but think back to her unexpected meeting with Liam. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw his smile and heard his calm voice. It was so different from the fast-paced, high-stress world she was used to. In her job as a waitress, every day felt like a grind. But talking to Liam had made her feel seen, as if someone genuinely cared about what she had to say. It was a refreshing change. As much as she tried to shake it off, she couldn't stop thinking about him. The feeling was strange, and she wasn't sure what to do with it. She had never been one to get swept away by someone so quickly. After all, they were from two entirely different worlds. Liam was a man of wealth and status, someone who had everything she didn't: power, influence, and the kind of life she could only dream of. Claire had nothing but her passion for music and her hopes of opening her own art studio one day. They were like two magnets on opposite sides of a magnet, pulled together but still miles apart. She tried to keep her thoughts in check, focusing instead on her work. The next evening, Claire received a text from Liam. She stared at it for a moment, wondering if it was some kind of joke. "Would you like to meet for coffee tomorrow? I'd love to hear more about your dreams and what inspires you." A wave of surprise washed over her. He wanted to meet again. Despite everything in her telling her to stay guarded, Claire couldn't resist the invitation. The next afternoon, She found herself walking into a small, cozy cafe downtown. The kind of place she could afford, unlike the lavish venues Liam was used to. She walked in nervously, scanning the room for him. And there he was, sitting by the window, dressed casually but still looking effortlessly elegant. He stood as soon as he saw her, his face lighting up with that familiar, warm smile. "Hey Claire, I'm so glad you could make it," Liam said, pulling out a chair for her. Claire smiled back, feeling a flutter in her chest. "I didn't think I would. But here I am," she said, taking a seat. The conversation flowed easily, just like the last time they spoke. They talked about everything: life, dreams, their struggles. Liam was surprisingly down to earth. He didn't act like the millionaire he was. He shared stories of how he built his business from the ground up, of the challenges he faced, and the sacrifices he made. It was hard to imagine him, the polished CEO, ever going through the kinds of hardships Claire had faced. But he wasn't the kind of man to boast about his success. It was clear that beneath his confident exterior, there was a genuine curiosity about life and about her. As the conversation deepened, Claire felt herself opening up in a way she never had before. She told him about her dreams of starting an art studio, her struggles with paying rent, and how she constantly felt like she was stuck in a cycle of just getting by. Liam listened attentively, his eyes focused on her, as if every word she said mattered. "You know," he said after a long pause, "I think you could do it. You just need the right opportunity. And someone who believes in you." Claire chuckled. "If only it were that simple. Believe me, I've tried." Liam shook his head, his expression serious. "I know it's not easy, but sometimes, all it takes is the right person to believe in you." Claire felt a pang in her chest. His words seemed to echo in her mind, but she quickly pushed the feeling aside. "I'm just not sure I'm cut out for it," she admitted, her voice faltering. "There are so many people who have what it takes. I'm not one of them." Liam reached across the table, his hand gently resting on hers. The touch was soft, but it felt like a lifeline. "You are," he said quietly. "You just need to believe in yourself the way I believe in you." Claire's heart raced. His words were unexpected, but they resonated deeply. It felt as if something inside her had shifted, like a door had been unlocked. But as much as she wanted to believe him, doubt crept in. Could someone like him really believe in someone like her? As the afternoon wore on, Claire tried to focus on the conversation, but her mind kept wandering. She wondered why he was so kind to her. What did he want from her? Was it just another charity case for him? As if reading her thoughts, Liam stood up to leave. He looked down at her, his expression unreadable for a moment before he spoke again. "I know this may sound strange, but I'd really like to help you. I want to invest in your dream, Claire. I can help make it happen." Claire's eyes widened in shock. "You what?" He smiled, that familiar warmth returning to his face. "I believe in your talent, and I think it's time someone gave you a chance." Claire sat in stunned silence as Liam's words sank in. "I want to invest in your dream, Claire. I can help make it happen." It was the kind of offer that most people could only dream of, and yet, here she was, sitting in front of a man who was offering to turn her life upside down with the flick of a pen. She had spent so many nights thinking about her dream of opening her own art studio, but the reality of it seemed so distant. There were bills to pay, rent to cover, and she barely had enough to get by. The idea that someone like Liam, with his wealth and connections, believed in her was almost too much to process. She stared at him, unsure of how to respond. What did he see in her? She wasn't special. She was just a waitress who loved to paint. Why would he invest in her dream when he could have anything else he wanted? The thought made her feel small, but at the same time, she couldn't help but feel a spark of hope. What if this was the chance she had been waiting for? But as much as she wanted to jump at the opportunity, doubt crept in. "Are you sure you want to do this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I mean, you barely know me. What if it doesn't work out? What if I fail?" Liam's gaze softened, and he leaned forward, resting his hands on the table. "Claire," he said quietly, "I believe in you. And I know what it feels like to have a dream and not be able to reach it. That's why I want to help you. You don't have to do this alone." His words were simple, but they hit her like a wave. She had never felt so seen, so understood. Here was a man who had built his empire, who had every reason to stay distant, yet he was offering her a lifeline. She had always kept her dreams to herself, afraid that if she shared them, they would be crushed by reality. But now, with Liam's encouragement, those dreams didn't seem so far away. She took a deep breath and looked at him, her mind racing. What would that look like? She asked, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. Liam smiled, and it was the kind of smile that made her feel like everything was possible. I want to set you up with the resources you need. We'll work together to make sure you have everything, financial support, guidance, and the connections to get you started. You'll have the freedom to focus on your art, without the weight of the world on your shoulders. And when the time comes, we'll open the studio together. The way he spoke about it, with such confidence and clarity, made Claire's heart race. He wasn't just offering her a chance. He was giving her the tools to create a life she had only dreamed of. But even as excitement began to bubble up inside her, she couldn't shake the feeling of guilt. What did Liam expect in return? It felt too good to be true. I don't know, she said, biting her lip. This all sounds amazing, but why me? Why are you doing this? Liam's smile faded slightly, and his tone softened. Because I see something in you that I don't see in many people, he said. You're passionate, driven, and real. I've worked with so many people who are only in it for the money or the fame. But you're different. You have a genuine love for what you do, and that's rare. Claire looked down, feeling a mixture of warmth and fear. She had always doubted herself, convinced that she wasn't good enough, that her dreams were just too big to ever be realized. But Liam's belief in her made her question everything she had ever told herself. Could she really do this? Was she worthy of such an opportunity? Before she could voice her concerns, Liam reached across the table, gently taking her hand in his. The contact was warm and reassuring. I know it's a lot to take in, he said, but this is your chance to show the world who you really are. You're not just a waitress. You're a talented artist with a dream, and I want to help you bring it to life. Claire felt a lump form in her throat as she looked at him. She didn't know how to explain it, but something inside her shifted. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she was worthy of something more than just scraping by. She was worthy of chasing her dreams. Okay, she said, her voice trembling slightly. Let's do it. Let's make this happen. Liam's smile returned, wider this time, and Claire could see the genuine excitement in his eyes. He squeezed her hand before releasing it, his energy now matching the enthusiasm that was slowly building inside her. I knew you'd say yes, he said with a wink. You're going to make something amazing, Claire, and I'm here to make sure you do. The moment felt like the beginning of something big, something that would change her life in ways she never thought possible. She was no longer just dreaming. She was on the path to making those dreams a reality. The next few weeks passed by in a whirlwind of activity. Claire was in disbelief at how quickly everything had changed. What had started as a simple offer over coffee had turned into something that felt like a dream come true. Liam kept his word, helping her get everything in motion. They met regularly to discuss her goals, how to plan her art studio, and what steps to take to make it all happen. He connected her with people in the art world, introduced her to potential investors, and even helped her secure a small space for her studio. Every time Claire looked at the progress they had made, she could hardly believe it. She had always thought that someone like her, someone from a modest background, someone struggling to make ends meet, would never get the chance to pursue her dreams. But now, with Liam's help, it was all within reach. She started to feel something inside her that she hadn't felt in years. Hope. But with that hope came fear. She had always been independent, always relied on herself. The idea of someone else investing so much in her felt strange, like she didn't deserve it. She started questioning herself. What if she failed? What if she let Liam down? Despite all the encouragement, despite everything he had done for her, she couldn't help but worry. One evening, after another meeting with Liam, Claire found herself standing in front of the small studio space they had chosen together. The building was old, but had potential. It had high ceilings, natural light pouring through the large windows, and the charm of a place that could tell stories. It felt like the perfect place for her art, but there was a nagging feeling in her chest. She stood outside, her hands tucked into the pockets of her jacket, her breath visible in the crisp evening air. She had made it this far, but now she wondered if she was really ready to take the leap. What if the reality of running a studio was too much? What if she wasn't cut out for it after all? Just as she was about to turn around and walk away, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Liam. Hey, I know this is all happening so fast. If you ever feel overwhelmed, just remember I'm here for you. We're in this together. Don't doubt yourself, Claire. His words, simple and direct, hit her hard. She stood there for a moment, reading the message again, her heart warming with a sense of gratitude. He wasn't just offering her financial help. He was offering his belief in her. He saw something in her that she didn't even see in herself. She sighed, feeling the weight of the uncertainty lift slightly. As much as the fear still lingered, she knew deep down that she couldn't back out now. She had to trust in herself, in the opportunity, and in Liam's belief in her. The next day, they met at the studio again, this time to finalize the paperwork. The space was finally hers, and it felt real. It was no longer just an idea. It was happening. They went over the budget one more time, and Liam offered his suggestions, making sure she was prepared for the challenges ahead. His presence was reassuring, but Claire still felt the anxiety bubbling up inside her. Running a business, managing the finances, and keeping up with the art, it all felt like a heavy burden. As they walked through the studio together, Claire took a deep breath, trying to calm her nerves. Liam paused and looked at her. "You've got this, Claire. You're going to make it. I've seen what you can do. You just need to believe in yourself like I believe in you." His words echoed in her mind as she stood there, looking at the empty studio. The walls, though bare, were filled with potential. The possibilities were endless, but they also terrified her. What if she failed? What if it didn't work out? Liam must have sensed her hesitation. "I know it's a lot to take in, but remember, I'm not just offering financial help. I'm here to help you build something that lasts, something that means something. This studio is yours. Your vision, your passion." Claire nodded, trying to steady her breathing. She had come this far, and she couldn't let fear stop her now. She looked at Liam, who stood beside her, unwavering in his confidence. "Thank you," she said quietly, her voice shaky but sincere. "I don't think I could have gotten this far without you." Liam smiled, his eyes warm. "You did all the work, Claire. I'm just here to support you." And for the first time in a long time, Claire believed him. She was ready to take the next step. It wasn't going to be easy, but with Liam's support and her own determination, she could make her dream a reality. The path ahead was uncertain, but it was hers to walk. She was no longer just a waitress or a struggling artist. She was a business owner, a creator, and a woman who believed in herself. And with that belief, she was ready to face whatever came next. The next few months were a roller coaster for Claire. Her art studio, the dream she once thought was impossible, had become a reality, and she was working harder than ever to make it thrive. The walls, once bare, were now filled with beautiful pieces of art that she had poured her soul into. She had built something from the ground up, and every brushstroke felt like a step closer to her future. Despite the excitement, there were moments of doubt. Managing the business side of things was far more difficult than she had anticipated. There were bills to pay, deadlines to meet, and all the responsibilities she never thought about when she dreamed of owning an art studio. On top of that, her old fears resurfaced. What if she wasn't good enough? What if people didn't take her seriously? The pressure began to weigh on her, and at times, it felt like the dream she had fought so hard for was slipping out of her grasp. But Liam was there, every step of the way. He checked in regularly, offered advice, and kept reassuring her that she could handle it. His support meant everything to her, and she found herself leaning on him more than she had ever expected. Yet, as their professional relationship grew stronger, Claire couldn't shake the feeling that something more was developing between them. There were small moments that caught her off guard, when their hands accidentally brushed, or when he would look at her with a gaze that lingered just a little too long. She couldn't deny the chemistry between them, but she was hesitant. She didn't want to jeopardize the progress she had made or blur the line between professional and personal. But deep down, she couldn't ignore the feelings that had been building up. One evening, after another successful exhibition at the studio, Liam invited her to dinner. It was just the two of them, and the night felt different from any of their previous meetings. As they sat across from each other in a cozy corner of a quiet restaurant, Claire found herself smiling more than she had in weeks. The conversation was easy, flowing naturally, just like the first time they met. But now, there was an undercurrent of something else, a tension neither of them seemed willing to address. After dessert, as they lingered over coffee, Liam finally broke the silence. "Claire," he began, his voice softer than usual, "I need to ask you something." She looked up, meeting his gaze. Her heart skipped a beat, and she suddenly felt nervous. "What's on your mind?" she asked, trying to sound casual. Liam hesitated, as if weighing his words carefully. I've been thinking a lot about us. About everything we've been working on together. And, he paused again, his eyes searching hers. I want to be honest with you. I've developed feelings for you, Claire. I know this might complicate things, but I can't pretend like it's not there anymore. Claire's breath caught in her throat. She hadn't expected him to say that. She had thought about the possibility, but hearing him admit it out loud left her momentarily speechless. She looked down at her hands, unsure of what to say. I don't want to make things difficult between us, Liam continued, his tone gentle but serious. But I also don't want to keep pretending that I don't care about you. You mean more to me than just a business partner, Claire. Claire's heart was pounding in her chest. She knew she had feelings for him too, but she was terrified. What would this mean for her studio? For their professional relationship? Could she risk everything for something that might not work out? Liam, she started, but her voice faltered. I don't know what to say. He reached across the table, taking her hand in his. You don't have to say anything right now. I just needed you to know how I feel. Whatever happens, I respect you and your dreams. If you don't feel the same way, I'll understand. Claire looked at him, her mind racing. She had never been good at letting herself be vulnerable, and this was no exception. But something about the way he was looking at her, the sincerity in his eyes, made her feel like it might be okay to take that leap. She squeezed his hand, her own feelings of uncertainty beginning to melt away. I don't want to lose what we have, she said quietly, her voice shaky. But I can't ignore how I feel either. Liam smiled, a weight lifting off his shoulders. We don't have to have all the answers right now. We'll figure it out together, one step at a time. As the night went on, Claire felt a sense of relief wash over her. For the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to let go of the fear that had been holding her back. She didn't know what the future held, but she was ready to take the next step, both in her business and in her personal life. Liam was right. They would figure it out together. The weeks following their conversation felt like a whirlwind, but Claire was slowly finding her footing both in her personal life and in the studio. The partnership she had with Liam had transformed into something more, something she hadn't quite expected, but something that felt right. They had spent more time together outside of business hours, sharing meals, talking late into the night about everything from their childhoods to their hopes for the future. The chemistry between them was undeniable, and with every passing day, Claire found herself falling more for the man who had once been nothing more than a business partner, but now seemed to be becoming her rock. Yet, even as she allowed herself to feel vulnerable and open, there was still a lingering fear. She didn't want their relationship to interfere with her dreams. Her art studio had become her world, and the last thing she wanted was for it to crumble because of emotions getting in the way. She had seen too many people get distracted by love and lose sight of what mattered. But as she sat in the studio late one evening, going over her finances and plans for the upcoming gallery show, Claire realized just how much Liam had been there for her. It wasn't just about the money or the connections he had provided. It was about the way he believed in her when she didn't believe in herself. He was there, pushing her to take chances, to do more than just get by. And that belief was starting to push Claire toward something bigger. That night, Liam arrived at the studio unexpectedly, a warm smile on his face as he walked in. Claire looked up from the papers in front of her, surprised to see him. I thought you'd be busy with work, she said, folding her arms across her chest. I am, Liam replied, his eyes twinkling. But I couldn't get through the day without checking in on you. He crossed the room to stand beside her, glancing at the papers scattered on the desk. How's everything going? Claire hesitated, running a hand through her hair. It's going, she said, giving him a small, nervous smile. I've been so caught up in everything. There's so much to think about, so many decisions to make. I'm just trying to keep everything on track. Liam leaned over, taking a look at the numbers and plans she had laid out. He didn't say anything for a moment, just studied the work in front of him. Finally, he met her eyes. You're doing great, Claire, he said softly. You've come so far in such a short time. Look at this place. Look at everything you've built. Claire swallowed hard, feeling a wave of emotion rush over her. She had been working so hard to keep it all together, and in the process, she hadn't stopped to appreciate just how far she had come. I guess I'm just afraid, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. What if it's not enough? What if I fail? Liam reached out, his hand gently resting on hers. Failure isn't the worst thing, Claire, he said, his voice low and steady. What matters is how you rise from it. You've already shown more strength and resilience than most people could ever dream of. His words calmed her, but the fear still lingered. Claire had always been driven by her need to prove herself, to show that she was capable of more. But with Liam by her side, she realized that she didn't have to do it alone. Together, they had built something amazing. She was no longer just a waitress trying to get by. She was an artist and a businesswoman, and her dreams were finally becoming a reality. "You're right," Claire said, finally finding her voice. "I can't let fear control me anymore." Liam smiled, his hand still resting on hers. "That's the spirit. And remember, I'm here for you. No matter what happens, we'll face it together." The words were simple, but they carried so much weight. Claire felt a shift within her, a newfound sense of confidence. She had been afraid to lean on someone else, to let her guard down, but now she saw that it wasn't weakness. It was strength. As they stood there together, looking around the studio, Claire realized that this was just the beginning. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid to take the next step. With Liam's support, she was ready to face whatever came next, not just in business, but in life. Their journey together was far from over, but one thing was certain: they would face it side by side. As the months went by, Claire's art studio began to gain attention. Her first gallery show had been a success, drawing a crowd of art lovers and critics who were impressed by her talent. She felt a sense of pride she had never known before. Yet, despite the success, there was a growing tension between her and Liam. Their professional relationship had seamlessly turned personal, and now, Claire found herself at a crossroads. She had to admit that her feelings for him had deepened. But with those feelings came uncertainty. Claire was afraid of what it would mean for the studio if they were to take their relationship to the next level. She had never wanted to mix business with pleasure, but the connection between them was undeniable. Late one evening, as she stayed late at the studio, carefully arranging her paintings for the next show, Liam stopped by unexpectedly. He always seemed to know when she needed him, and tonight was no different. He stood in the doorway, watching her work for a moment before speaking. "You've been here for hours," he said, a soft smile playing on his lips. "You need a break." Claire looked up, meeting his gaze. She hadn't realized how tired she was, but his presence seemed to calm her. "I guess I lost track of time," she replied, setting down the brush she had been holding. "This exhibition is important to me, Liam. I want it to be perfect." Liam walked over to her, his expression softening. "You're doing amazing, Claire. Everything is coming together beautifully. But don't forget to take care of yourself too." Claire nodded, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. She couldn't deny that his support had meant everything to her. But despite the bond they shared, she couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was still off. "I've been thinking a lot," she said, her voice quiet. "About us. About what this all means." Liam tilted his head, concern flashing across his face. "What do you mean?" Claire took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart. "I don't know if I can keep doing this. Mixing business with personal feelings, I mean. It's risky. What if it doesn't work out? What if I lose everything, including you?" Liam reached out, gently placing his hand on hers. "Claire, you don't have to do this alone. I'm not going anywhere. I believe in you, and I believe in what we have. But I also understand your fears. It's not easy to let someone in, especially when you've worked so hard to get to where you are." Claire looked down at their hands, feeling the weight of her emotions. She had spent so many years keeping people at arm's length, afraid of getting hurt. But with Liam, everything felt different. He had shown her a side of herself she didn't even know existed. Someone who was capable of love and trust. And yet, that same fear held her back. "I don't want to lose myself in this," she said, her voice trembling. "I've worked so hard to build this studio, to make something of myself. I don't want to become someone who needs someone else to succeed." Liam's grip on her hand tightened. "You're not alone in this, Claire. And you don't have to lose yourself. We can do this together, at your pace. I'm here, every step of the way. And if you ever feel overwhelmed, you can always take a step back. You have the power to decide." His words were a balm to her restless heart. She could see that he wasn't just offering support. He was offering her space to grow, to be herself. She didn't have to let go of her dreams or her independence. They could make it work, together. "I'm scared, Liam," she admitted, her voice small. "Scared of what this might mean for everything I've worked for." Liam smiled gently, his eyes filled with understanding. Fear is a part of every big change, but it doesn't have to control you. What matters is what you choose to do with that fear. And I know that no matter what, you'll make the right decision. Claire took a deep breath, her heart racing with a mixture of emotions. She had spent so much time doubting herself, questioning her worth, but Liam's belief in her had slowly chipped away at those walls. For the first time, she realized she didn't have to choose between her dream and her heart. She could have both. She could build her art studio and build something meaningful with Liam. It wouldn't be easy, and there would be challenges ahead, but she wasn't alone. As she stood up from the chair and looked around the studio, Claire felt a sense of clarity she hadn't felt before. She had come this far on her own, and with Liam by her side, she knew she could go even further. "I think I'm ready," she said, meeting Liam's gaze with newfound confidence. "To take that leap, not just with the studio, but with us. I'm ready to see where this goes." Liam's smile widened, and for a moment, everything felt right. The studio, her dream, and the man who had helped her get there. It wasn't just a business venture anymore. It was her life, and she was finally ready to live it, fully and without fear. The next few months were a time of growth for Claire, both professionally and personally. The studio was flourishing, and she was more confident in her abilities than ever before. The gallery show she had been working on was one of the biggest successes she had ever had. People were talking about her work, and her name was becoming known in the art world. But despite all the achievements, there was still one thing weighing on her heart: the relationship with Liam. She had taken the leap, allowing herself to trust him and their connection, but something still felt unfinished. They had shared so much: dreams, fears, and even doubts, but they hadn't yet defined what this relationship really was. She had avoided the conversation, worried that it would ruin everything. But as time went on, the tension between them grew, and Claire knew she couldn't keep avoiding it. One evening, after a long day of painting and meeting with clients, Claire sat alone in the studio, staring at her unfinished canvas. The colors seemed to swirl together, just as her thoughts did. She felt a sudden need to talk to Liam, to figure out what they were to each other. As if on cue, her phone buzzed. It was a message from him. "Can we talk tonight? I need to see you." Claire's heart skipped a beat. She wasn't sure what he wanted to say, but she knew this was the conversation they had been avoiding. She quickly typed back, "Of course. I'll be here." An hour later, Liam walked into the studio, his face soft but serious. The way he looked at her made Claire's stomach flutter. He had been her support, her partner in building this dream, but now she needed to know if there was something more. Liam closed the door behind him and walked over to where Claire was standing. He paused for a moment, looking at her as if he were gathering his thoughts. "I've been thinking a lot," he began, his voice low, "about everything we've shared, about how I feel about you, and I realize that I can't keep pretending that it's just business between us." Claire's heart raced. She had been expecting this, but now that the moment was here, she found herself struggling to find the right words. "Liam," she started, her voice shaky. "I feel the same way. I've tried to push it away, to focus on the studio and my work, but it's hard. You mean more to me than I can even put into words. I just don't know what this means for us. What happens if things don't work out? I can't lose everything, especially not the studio." Liam took a step closer, his expression earnest. "I understand your fear, Claire, but what we have, what we've built, goes beyond just the studio or business. You've become more than a partner to me. I care about you deeply, and I want to see where this can go. I want to be with you, no matter what happens." Claire felt a mix of emotions. His words were everything she had wanted to hear, but the fear of losing it all still lingered. She had worked so hard to build something for herself, and the idea of it all coming crumbling down because of a failed relationship scared her. But as she looked into Liam's eyes, she saw nothing but sincerity. He wasn't asking for her to abandon her dreams. He was asking her to trust him, to trust them. "What if we both get hurt?" Claire whispered, her voice barely audible. "What if it all falls apart?" Liam reached out, gently cupping her face in his hands. "Then we deal with it together. We've already built something incredible, Claire. And if something goes wrong, we'll handle it. But I don't want to live in fear of what might happen. I want to live in the moment with you." His words settled in her heart. The fear was still there, but she realized something important. She had spent so much time building walls around herself, afraid to be vulnerable, afraid to take risks. But life wasn't about avoiding the pain. It was about embracing the journey, the ups and the downs. She had learned that through her art, and now she was learning it in her heart. I want to take that risk, Claire said, her voice steady now, her eyes filled with determination. I want to be with you, Liam. Let's see where this goes. Together. Liam's face broke into a smile, and for the first time in a long time, Claire felt like everything was falling into place. The studio, her dreams, and Liam, all of it was part of a bigger picture, and she was finally ready to live that picture with all its uncertainties, joys, and love. As they stood together in the studio, surrounded by the art that had once been her sole focus, Claire knew that the future was theirs to shape. No more fear, no more doubt. Just trust, love, and the belief that together, they could face whatever came next. The days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, as Claire's art studio flourished in ways she had never imagined. The first year had passed, and with it came a new sense of confidence that radiated from her in everything she did. The challenges she faced, financial struggles, uncertainty, and self-doubt, had all been overcome, and now the studio was a thriving hub of creativity and inspiration. People came from all over to see her work, to be a part of the exhibitions, and to witness firsthand the passion that she poured into every piece. But none of it had come easily. It had been hard work, sleepless nights, and moments of doubt that made her question if she was doing the right thing. Yet, with each passing day, Claire found herself stronger, more secure in her purpose. She no longer felt like an imposter in the art world. She was exactly where she was meant to be. And then there was Liam. He had been there for her through it all, not just as a business partner, but as someone who believed in her, who loved her in ways she hadn't known were possible. Their relationship had grown deeper with time. What had started as an unspoken connection blossomed into something beautiful, something real. There were no more doubts between them, no more fear. They were partners, in every sense of the word. One evening, as Claire was getting ready for another gallery event at the studio, she found herself standing in front of the mirror, adjusting her dress. She paused for a moment, looking at her reflection, taking in how far she had come. She had once been a struggling artist, afraid of chasing her dreams, thinking they were out of reach. Now, she was living those dreams. Her art was her life, and with Liam by her side, she had everything she had ever wanted. There was no more fear of failure, no more wondering if she deserved it. She did. She had earned it. As she turned to leave her office, she heard the familiar sound of the door opening. Liam walked in, as always, with that comforting smile that had become so familiar. He was dressed in a simple suit, but to Claire, he looked perfect. He stepped forward, taking her hand gently in his. "You look beautiful," he said, his voice warm, his eyes full of admiration. Claire smiled, a little bashfully. "Thank you, but I think you're the one who looks perfect tonight." Liam chuckled, but his gaze softened. "I'm just glad to be here with you," he said. "You've come so far. You've done something incredible, Claire. I'm proud of you." Claire's heart swelled. She had heard those words countless times, but every time they left his lips, it still felt like the first. His belief in her, his love, had been the anchor that kept her grounded even when everything felt impossible. She squeezed his hand, feeling a rush of gratitude for him and everything he had done. "We've done it together, Liam," she said quietly. "Without you, none of this would be possible." His smile widened, and for a moment, there was a silence between them, a moment of understanding, of acknowledgement. Everything they had worked for, everything they had built, was a result of their shared commitment. It wasn't just the studio, it wasn't just the success. It was their love, their shared vision for the future. The evening continued on, filled with laughter and conversation, as the gallery show took center stage. Claire's artwork was celebrated, and for the first time, she allowed herself to feel proud, not just of her work, but of the journey that had led her here. As the night wound down, and the last of the guests began to leave, Liam pulled her aside. "There's something I've been meaning to do," he said, his voice low and serious. Claire raised an eyebrow, curious. Liam smiled, reaching into his jacket pocket and pulling out a small, velvet box. Claire's breath caught in her throat as he opened it, revealing a simple, elegant ring. Her heart skipped a beat. "Claire," he began, his voice filled with emotion, "you've been my partner in so many ways. I can't imagine my life without you in it. You've made me a better person, and I want to continue building our future together. Will you marry me?" Claire's eyes filled with tears, and for a moment, she couldn't speak. She had imagined this moment 1,000 times, but now, with the ring in his hand, it felt more real than ever. She smiled through her tears, nodding eagerly. "Yes, yes, I will." Liam slipped the ring onto her finger, and in that moment, Claire felt a sense of completeness she had never known before. Her dreams had come true, not just in the form of the art studio, but in the love and partnership she had with Liam. Together, they had built something lasting. Together, they had created a life full of love, creativity, and possibility. The future was theirs, and Claire was ready to embrace it, fully and without fear. Their journey was just beginning, but for the first time in her life, Claire felt certain of one thing. She was exactly where she was meant to be. This touching story follows the journey of Claire, a struggling artist who builds her dream art studio with the support of an unexpected business partner. What begins as a professional collaboration slowly evolves into a deep and meaningful relationship. As Claire navigates the challenges of running her own business, she faces self-doubt, fear of failure, and the desire to keep her dreams intact. With Liam's unwavering belief in her, she begins to conquer her fears and embrace both love and career. This touching story shows that dreams are worth pursuing, no matter how impossible they may seem. Throughout their journey, Claire and Liam work together to create a life built on trust, love, and creativity, overcoming obstacles along the way. Their emotional growth and personal transformation culminate in a beautiful moment of commitment and partnership. If you enjoy touching stories about love, growth, and following your dreams, this journey will tug at your heartstrings. With each step, Claire learns the value of love and the power of belief, showing that with the right person by your side, anything is possible. This touching story reminds us that life is not just about achieving goals, but about the people we share the journey with. If you love touching stories with emotional depth and inspiring transformations, this one is for you.